Okay, so for this lesson, I want you guys to turn in your workbooks to page 136. We're going to go over how to find the perimeter of a figure. First off, I want to show you, and you guys know I don't really love estimating, but in perimeter, it's actually kind of easy. So for this example, we're going to estimate the perimeter when it's on a grid paper. When it's not on a grid paper, just solve it. I don't want you to estimate. So when you're estimating a figure, you have to look at each parts of the shape here and count the grid square lengths around it. The first thing you want to do is count the grid square lengths that are around the sections that are obviously right along the edge of these squares. So this is the nice part here. If you count this part in the red, there's 20 squares. Okay? The tricky part is when you get to the diagonal stuff. Well, when you're doing diagonal stuff, instead of it being worth 1 each time you go across it, it's worth 1.5. So each one of these boxes are worth 1.5. So then if you add up the number of red, where the outline of red is, there's 20 boxes of those. And then if you add up the diagonal portion, where the blue is, there's 8 of those, but they're each worth 1.5, so they're worth 12 inches. So then you add them both together. 20 plus 12 gives you 32 inches. So then this entire perimeter of this arrow would be 32 inches. All right, let's look at another one. And just in case I wasn't clear, when you hear the word perimeter, it's the distance around an object. For instance, if I had a fence line and I had it around a pasture, the perimeter is the distance around this pasture. This is an M, looks weird. Perimeter is the distance around it. So all of these fence lines, that's how you think of it, is the fence line. If I'm talking about area, let me put this, that's talking about the area inside. So it would be the shaded part. But in this case, perimeter is the distance around it. All right, so let's do the next example. So you see this figure is made up of a semicircle and a triangle. So you're going to find the perimeter. Well, the first section is to look around the outside, but what measurements we do know. We do know that this is 8 and this is 6. So you can add 6 plus 8 already, and we have part of our perimeter. We know that 6 plus 8 is 14. So now how do you find the semicircle? Well, we did that in the last lesson. Remember, in a circle, perimeter is called a circumference. It's the same thing, but it's just called a different name because it's a circle. So in order to find the half a circle, we find the circumference and then divide it by 2. So you can see here that they gave us the diameter of the circle's 10 feet. So you're going to take the circumference and divide it by 2. Our formula for circumference is pi times the diameter. Remember, pi is 3.14. So I'm going to do 3.14 times the diameter, which in this case is what? 10. And then when I have that answer, that would be the whole circle. Well, we want half the circle, so once I have that answer, I divide it by 2. So when you divide it by 2, you'll get 15.7. So now that you have 15.7, which is literally just the half circle here, you're going to add it to what we already have at 14 feet, and then add it to the 15 plus 7. So you're going to say 14 plus 15 plus 7 equals 27.9 feet. So this is the actual perimeter. This is not an estimate. So the perimeter of this semicircle in a triangle shape is 29.7 feet. Okay, so sometimes you got to find part of the perimeter and then the other part in a different way, and then you add the two together. So it just depends on what you can see. Okay, for this example, we're trying to find the perimeter of this running track. Now you can see here we're made up of two semicircles, so you have a semicircle here and a semicircle here. Now, if I were to get rid of this middle part and squish those together, I'd have a full circle, right? Yes. So you can find the circumference of one half, of one of these and count it as both halves because they're going to be the same. So, but you'll notice in this one they gave us the radius, not the diameter. Okay, now remember the radius is a slightly different equation. Okay, the radius equation for circumference is circumference equals 2 times pi times r, which makes sense because our diameter, remember the diameter one was just, there's some circumference equals pi times the diameter. And what's the diameter? Diameter is 2 radiuses, or double the radius. So it makes sense. So you can either double this radius and use this equation, or you can just leave it as is and use this equation. It doesn't matter which way you do it. So we're going to plug it in. 2 times 3.14 times the radius, which is 32. So you multiply those three together and you're going to get 200.96. Okay, now you're trying to find the perimeter of this whole shape. So this semicircle, then this distance, this semicircle, then this distance. Okay, this is the track. Okay, well you'll see here that this distance is 100. So then you need to add 100 for one side and 100 for the other side. Okay, so you have 100 plus 100 plus the 200.96. Now that was for a full circle, which works because we have two ends here. Remember, if it didn't have both these ends, then you would have divided that by 2. But because it's a full circle, then we add it all together and we get 400.96 meters. So that would be the perimeter of this running track. Okay, so let's practice what we just learned. So for this example, we are going to estimate the perimeter. Now remember how to estimate? We're going to count all the straight edges that we can see, and then anything that's diagonal is worth 1.5. So let's just do the straight edges first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are all diagonal. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so far I have 12 that are worth 1 apiece. Now let's count the diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I have 8, but these are worth 1.5. So 8 times 1.5 is going to give you 12. So I'm going to add the 12 to the original 12, and we get 24. So 24, the perimeter is 24, and if you want to label this, you would label it units, since it doesn't give you a measurement. All right, so that's one practice. Let's practice another one. Okay, so for this example, we have a semicircle and a square. Find the perimeter. Well, first let's start with the easy part. We have our straight edges, which is 5 plus 5 plus 5. So 5 times 3 is 15, and this is meters. So now we need to do the semicircle. Okay, do we know the diameter here? Yes, you can see it's written down here. This is the same measurement here, 5 meters. So the diameter here is, the circumference is the diameter times pi. So that would be 5 times 3.14. Which would give you 15.7. Okay, now this is for a whole circle. So now, since it's just a semicircle, we divide that by 2 to get 7.85. Now to get our entire perimeter, we add the straight edges plus our semicircle. So we're going to get 15 plus 7.85, which would be 22.85. Whoops. moved it on there, but I'll just rewrite it. 22.85. And this would be meters. So our perimeter of this entire shape is 22.85 meters. Good. All right, I think we have one more example. Okay, so here's another example. Now, in a square, all four sides are the same measurement, right? So technically, this is V 4 times. So V plus V plus V plus V, and all of that equals 40. Okay, well, if there's 4 V's, then if I divide 40 by 4, that'll tell me what 1 V equals, which is 10. So in this case, this would be 10 kilometers. Okay, so those are some of the examples that you're going to have to do in your Excel tomorrow. For today, all you have to do is workbook, page 136, numbers 1 through 5, and 5 has an A and B. All right, let me know if you have questions.